Love once followed a familiar clock, a steady rhythm of vows before 30, rings before wrinkles, and families before freedom. But time has learned new steps. In modern Australia, the dance of commitment moves to a slower, wiser beat. It's not hesitation, it's evolution. What once was rushed is now refined. The heart still searches, but it does so with intention. This is not a story of fading romance. It's the story of how love learned patience, and how a generation redefined what it means to say yes, not just to someone, but to the right time. Once, marriage arrived early, a marker of adulthood, a promise whispered before life had fully unfolded. It was the chapter people expected to turn by their mid-20s, a rite of passage written into the rhythm of youth. But as the decades turned, something subtle shifted in Australia's social fabric. The median age of marriage began to climb, slowly at first, then steadily, reflecting a world where youth no longer ended with a wedding ring. The data tells the story quietly. In the 1970s, many walked down the aisle before 25. Today, those same steps echo closer to 32. It's not a rejection of tradition, but a recalibration of timing. People aren't marrying less because they love less. They're waiting longer because they understand more. The timeline of life has stretched, filled with studies, travels, careers, and a new kind of independence that wasn't always accessible before. The new timeline isn't just statistical, it's emotional. It speaks to a generation unafraid to pause, to question, to choose not just a partner, but a path that aligns with identity and stability. Love has become less about arrival and more about readiness, a harmony between personal growth and shared intention. In waiting, people have found a deeper meaning in connection, one that values compatibility over convention. And yet, beneath the surface, the change feels both liberating and nostalgic. Older generations recall vows made young, while younger ones measure love by understanding rather than urgency. Between the two lies a quiet truth. Time has not weakened the bond of love. It has expanded its depth. As Australia's timeline evolves, so too does the definition of forever. The age may be later, but perhaps, in many ways, it's just right. Freedom has become the new foundation of adulthood. In Australia, the 20s are no longer a waiting room for marriage. They are a launchpad for discovery. This is the age of self, a decade sculpted by ambition, travel, and self-definition. Where once love was the first priority, now purpose takes the lead. Degrees, careers, and personal goals form the architecture of a new identity, one that demands time to build before sharing its walls with another. The age of independence is not a rebellion against commitment, it is a dialogue with it. Young Australians are learning to know themselves before they promise themselves. They are choosing solitude, not as loneliness, but as an education. From shared apartments to solo flights across continents, independence has become a classroom where self-worth and resilience are taught more vividly than ever. Each choice, from a new city to a late-night deadline, adds to the tapestry of autonomy that once was reserved for older years. But with freedom comes complexity. Independence brings clarity and confidence, yet it can also stretch the distance between people. When careers move faster than relationships and opportunities scatter across states or seas, connection becomes both precious and fragile. The rhythm of modern life hums with motion, and in that motion, many discover that commitment requires more than affection. It requires alignment. The heart now asks, can we grow together? Not, can we simply be together? Still, within this independence lies quiet strength. It redefines love as something chosen, not needed, a partnership between two complete lives, not two have seeking to become whole. This evolution doesn't diminish romance, it matures it. The age of independence isn't the end of early love, it's the beginning of intentional love. And in learning to stand alone, a generation has prepared itself to stand together, on firmer ground, in its own time. Love, they say, should be simple, but simplicity costs more than ever. In modern Australia, affection meets arithmetic. The dream of settling down, once defined by promise, now carries the weight of price tags. Housing, weddings, education, and the endless hum of bills turn romance into an equation few can solve early. The economics of love is not a cold calculation. It's the quiet reality of hearts navigating a costly world. The walls of love have become taller, built not of hesitation, but of survival. A generation raised on ambition must now balance spreadsheets before vows. The cost of living turns patience into prudence. Before the ring comes the rent, before forever, the mortgage. Yet in these numbers lies an unspoken truth. Love still thrives, but it adapts. Commitment, once a leap, has become a climb, deliberate and steady, anchored by shared effort. Financial independence, though hard won, teaches a new kind of partnership. Couples today are collaborators, co-investors in a shared life. They understand that love cannot float above reality. It must root itself in it. The candlelit dinner has not vanished. It now flickers beside the glow of laptops and late-night plans. The romantic gesture is no longer measured in roses, but in rent paid, dreams funded, and futures built together. And yet, amid these practicalities, there remains poetry. The economics of love has not stolen its warmth. It has deepened its meaning. To love in this era is to persist, to plan, to protect what two people are building. It is less about escaping the world and more about surviving it side by side. This generation may marry later, but when they do, it is not out of convenience. It is out of readiness, both emotional and financial. In that waiting, love is not delayed. It is refined. Once, love was bound by expectation, roles assigned before the heart had its say. But those old scripts have begun to fade. In their place stands a generation of women and men rewriting the rhythm of relationship. Equality has given love new language. Empowerment has given it time. What was once a race to the altar has become a quiet walk toward purpose, shared and chosen. This new balance does not reject tradition. It reshapes it. Education, opportunity, and independence have expanded the landscape of choice. Women who once had to choose between career and connection now choose both on their own timeline. Marriage, once a measure of success, is now an extension of self-knowledge. Love has become an act of freedom, not a transaction, but a partnership of equals standing side by side, not one behind the other. And with this shift comes a subtler beauty, one that values understanding over obligation. Relationships breathe easier when built on respect rather than requirement. Empowerment has not hardened hearts, it has clarified them. When two complete people meet, they love without dependence, without fear. They build together not because they must, but because they want to. In that choice lies something powerful, a love that honors individuality as much as union. Yet equality's rise does not erase tenderness, it redefines it. Strength and softness coexist. Ambition and affection intertwine. The modern Australian marriage is not delayed because love has weakened, but because it has matured, unhurried, aware, and intentional. In empowerment, love has found its depth. In equality, it has found its grace. And in waiting, it has found its truest form. Partnership, not possession. Two voices, not one echo. Love has learned new forms. The vows may come later, or not at all, but affection still finds its place. In living rooms without wedding rings, in shared apartments filled with laughter and quiet rituals, a new model of partnership thrives. It is not built on ceremony, but on consistency, not on expectation, but on presence. The modern relationship model does not ask for permission. It simply exists, fluid, authentic, evolving. Here, love has escaped the timeline and settled into something far more human. Connection without performance. Cohabitation has become the natural step before marriage, and sometimes the destination itself. For many Australians, partnership no longer demands a document. It demands understanding. Couples share mortgages, meals, and milestones, choosing emotional truth over social approval. Their homes may be without altars, yet filled with devotion. It is not defiance, it is adaptation. The modern lover is less concerned with how love looks, and more with how it feels, how it endures in the quiet spaces between everyday routines. This evolution has not weakened commitment, it has reimagined it. To love now is to navigate transparency, emotional intelligence, and shared goals. Relationships are conversations, not contracts. They thrive on equality, on choice, on the courage to stay, not because the world expects it, but because both hearts desire it. There is intimacy in partnership without papers, and depth in connection without deadlines. In these new forms, love is less about belonging to someone and more about belonging with someone. Still, even in this freedom, the human heart remains the same, longing for closeness, understanding, and continuity. The modern relationship model does not replace the old, it expands it. It reminds us that commitment is not defined by a date or a title, but by intention. Love, in all its evolving shapes, remains sacred, whether spoken in vows or whispered in the quiet truth of everyday life. What matters now is not how love begins, but how it continues. Love has grown wiser, quieter, and more human. The modern relationship no longer follows the rigid choreography of the past. It flows, bends, and finds its own rhythm. Across Australia, couples are choosing connection over convention, crafting lives built on understanding rather than ceremony. The modern relationship model is not a rebellion against marriage, but a reimagining of what it means to share a life. Living together before vows is no longer a sign of hesitation. It is a symbol of partnership evolving in real time. In small apartments and sunlit kitchens, love has become less about performing commitment and more about practicing it. Two people learning, adjusting, creating a rhythm that fits them. That is the new forever. This era of love values truth over timelines. The modern couple does not need an audience to validate their bond. Their devotion lives in shared routines, mutual respect, and the simple act of staying. Commitment is measured not by paperwork, but by presence, by the quiet decision to choose one another again and again, without applause or pressure. What used to be milestones are now moments. Cooking dinner after work, laughing through fatigue, holding space for silence. The intimacy of this model lies in its honesty. It does not promise perfection, but persistence. Love, in its contemporary form, is both fragile and resilient, shaped by emotional intelligence and self-awareness. It breathes in conversations that last late into the night and in the trust that lingers after disagreement. And yet, beneath all this evolution, the essence of love remains unchanged. The need for connection, the desire to be seen, the hope of belonging, they endure. The modern relationship model simply gives love more room to breathe. It releases it from ceremony and allows it to exist in its rawest, truest form. To love now is to accept fluidity, to understand that every bond has its own pace, its own language, its own beauty. Marriage may come later or not at all, but love, steady, intentional, alive, still writes its story, one choice at a time. Even as the world evolves, tradition still whispers through the corridors of family and culture. In Australia, where modernity meets heritage, love carries the echo of generations past. Parents who married young remember a time when readiness was measured not in emotional maturity, but in expectation. Their children, raised in the era of choice, listen with affection but walk a slower path. Between those two rhythms, the old and the new, lies a gentle tension. The ticking clock of culture still beats softly in the background, reminding the young that time is moving, that family dreams wait. Yet this generation has learned to tell time differently, not by the pressure of age, but by the pulse of understanding. Culture gives love its shape, but connection gives it its meaning. The multicultural fabric of Australia brings with it diverse customs, faiths, and values, each adding color to how commitment is defined. For some, love must still pass through family blessings. For others, it must pass through self-approval. Between wedding rituals, blended families, and new ways of belonging, the story of connection is rewriting itself. The modern Australian does not abandon heritage, they reinterpret it. A tea ceremony might share space with a backyard celebration. Ancestral blessings might coexist with vows written in shared laughter. In this fusion, love becomes not a rejection of culture, but its evolution, carrying forward the spirit of tradition while leaving behind its weight. And yet, even with freedom and progress, the clock still ticks, not as a warning, but as a rhythm. It reminds every heart that love, though timeless, still lives within time. People are waiting longer not because they fear commitment, but because they are preparing for it. The meaning of readiness has changed. It now includes emotional depth, shared values, and mutual respect. Culture may still nudge the heart to hurry, but the heart answers with patience. Love is no longer racing against the clock. It's learning to move with it, gracefully, one moment of understanding at a time. Even as modern life moves forward, tradition lingers like a familiar melody in the background. In Australia's mosaic of cultures, love still listens to the quiet hum of family, community, and expectation. Parents recall the days when marriage arrived early, when commitment was proof of maturity, not its reward. Their children, now shaped by freedom and self-awareness, walk a different path. Between those two worlds lies a tender friction, the pull of the past and the call of the present. The ticking clock of culture still whispers, reminding many that time moves fast. Yet this generation no longer rushes to catch it. They are learning to let the heart set its own pace. Culture, though rooted in tradition, is not fixed. It bends with understanding. Across Australia's diverse landscape, love is expressed in countless ways, in blessings passed down through generations, in quiet defiance of old rules, in the gentle merging of identities. A modern ceremony may carry echoes of ancient rituals. A traditional vow may live inside a modern home. Each story becomes a blend, a conversation between history and choice. The modern Australian no longer sees culture as a boundary, but as a bridge. In honoring where they come from, they also honor the freedom to choose where they're going. Still, even in this freedom, the clock continues its gentle rhythm, not to hurry, but to remind. It tells us that love, though patient, is still precious, that connection, though redefined, still depends on time, intention, and trust. Australians today are not turning away from tradition. They are turning it into something truer, something real. Love is no longer about beating the clock. It's about keeping time with the heart. Love, in this new age, is no longer hurried. It breathes in its own rhythm, unforced, unmeasured, unafraid of time. Where once marriage was a race toward completion, now it is a conscious pause, a deliberate act of choosing, not settling. Australians are not turning away from commitment. They are turning toward intention. The question has shifted from "when will you marry?" to "why will you marry?" A quieter, deeper inquiry that honors meaning over milestone. This is the age of mindful unions. Two souls meet not because they must, but because they are ready. In the stillness between youth and maturity, people gather the fragments of self, dreams pursued, lessons lived, independence earned, before offering them to another. It's not hesitation, but preparation. Each decision, though delayed by the standards of the past, becomes more sacred, more aware. Love, in its truest form, is not found in haste, but in harmony. And so, the delay is not a loss, it is a luxury. Time becomes the quiet teacher, reminding us that depth cannot be rushed. Australians are rewriting the story of union, replacing pressure with presence. The meaning of choice has evolved. It is not about waiting for the perfect moment, but about arriving as a whole person. In that completeness, love finds its calm, and marriage, when it comes, is not late. It is right on time. Connection has never been easier or more complicated. A single swipe can summon possibility, and a notification can feel like destiny knocking. Yet behind every curated profile lies a deeper question. Are we finding love, or merely browsing its reflection? Australians today meet through glowing screens and digital pathways, where chemistry is coded and emotion is filtered through blue light. Convenience has never been closer, yet neither has the quiet ache of isolation. Technology has turned romance into an algorithm, efficient, vast, endlessly available. But in this world of infinite choice, clarity becomes a mirage. Conversations flow, vanish, and reappear in cycles of curiosity and uncertainty. We are learning to love through the language of text, to flirt through timing and tone, to read meaning between the dots of typing bubbles. In a paradox of proximity, we are both connected and alone, reaching out through glass, hoping someone reaches back. And yet, amidst the digital hum, something profoundly human endures. Real emotion still breaks through the screen, honest, unscripted, imperfect. Australians are learning that love, even online, demands presence and patience. Technology may shape how we meet, but not how we feel. Behind every pixel lies a pulse, behind every chat, a chance. In this age of endless scroll, the truth remains timeless. Love, whether digital or real, still seeks a heart that listens. In the end, love and marriage are not fading, they are evolving. Australians are no longer rushing toward a finish line, but walking with purpose toward meaning. Every delay, every pause, every choice, it all speaks of awareness. From independence to digital connection, each chapter tells the same quiet truth. Commitment is no longer a duty, but a decision. The age may shift, but the heart remains timeless. This is PrimeSpeaks, where every story finds its rhythm, every voice finds its depth, and every truth finds its time to be heard.